Conservation, preservation, and proper utilization of the seas and oceans guides the operations of the oceans and the seas, in Nigeria and of course across the global, nations. And in this edition of the SDGs, we'll be talking about SDG 14, which talks about life below water and the need to conserve these organisms, of course, from one generation to another generation, which also aligns with the concepts of the blue economy. With me on this segment is Saratu Inuwa Audu. She is an Assistant Chief Maritime Safety Officer in the ISPS Unit Department of NIMASA. Saratu, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Femi.
Thank you very much for coming on this program. So now, on this edition, we'll be talking about the various SDGs. And as you may know, that every sector in the economy has its own way to contribute to the SDGs, right? And then we've been talking about the maritime contribution to SDGs because very soon these SDGs are going to be over 2030, right? So now today on this edition, we're discussing SDG 14, life below water. Can you tell us what is NIMASA doing to preserve these organisms that are below water? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Femi, for giving me the opportunity to do this. But life below water, that's SDG 14.
Yes.
It's all about the roadmap, global roadmap for conserve and sustainable use of our oceans, seas, and the marine resources at large. So what NIMASA as a sector, NIMASA is part of the maritime sector contributing to this SDG 14 is doing is the conventions and the laws guiding the implementation of this roadmap. That's action created. There are 10 actions created by this SDG 14.
Okay.
So NIMASA has created roadmaps using this. One of the roadmap is prevention and reduction of pollution, through which NIMASA is using the domesticated conventions like the MAPOL, the London Convention, to reduce and prevent pollution entering our waterways throughout. Then using the law of the sea too, to prevent pollution and guide the coastline too. And part of what NIMASA has done on this too is the Marine Litter Action Plan and Plastic. That's Marine Action Plan on marine litters and plastic.
Okay. And
sensitization on the coastal areas too, on the implication of waste entering our waterways, plastic, then the need of conserving our ecosystems too, because the maritime community gain more from these our resources. That's the ecosystem are their livelihood. They get food, they get energy from all these resources. So they need to be educated on how they are going to conserve and sustainably use those resources for their benefit in future. So through the sensitization, through education, NIMASA is assisting the maritime community and the stakeholders at large.
Okay, thank you. That takes me to ask you a very, very important question on a marine spatial planning. When I talk about life below water, it means that every actor or users of the oceans must be able to use it in a very sustainable and responsible manner, right? We have the coastal tourism, we have the shipping community, we have all sorts of activities that goes on, fishing, aquaculture, that goes on our waterways, right? Now talking about marine spatial plan, which is very, very key to the full utilization of the ocean resources and of course to realize blue economy. What is NIMASA doing about marine spatial planning? Because it requires collaboration.
Yeah, actually for marine spatial planning, as the name implies, is spatial planning. That's you're planning your oceans on how to sustainably use it and conserve it. And we know the sectors in the ocean.
Yeah.
It's not only the shipping sector, we have the fishing sector, we have the tourism sector, And we have the even underwater, that is the BBNG that is coming up now.
Very, very important,
That's
yes.
the most important resources that we have now, which is not only within our coastal waters, but it can even go beyond the national boundary. So what NIMASA is doing now is creating a policy on how they are going to do the marine spatial planning.
Okay.
Champion, because marine spatial planning, an agency or a ministry cannot champion it alone, but it has to be a priority of the government, because it entails the defense, because it's part of the sector of the maritime,
Yes.
and it entails the fishery, it's another sector entirely, and it entails the
Transportation,
tourism,
shipping,
the
tourism.
the transportation, even
the
the
Ministry of
source,
Power.
Yes, the power. That's
the communications
blue
commissions,
energy, yes, the
because of their
communication,
cables, and
even
all of
the
that.
communication, even
Yes.
our cabotage that is giving the blue economy good thing. So they are laying pipelines and they are doing cabotage through. So it has to be a collaborative. But NIMASA should, as NIMASA is championing now the policy through the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. That's the governance, the structure of how the governance will go on how the marine spatial planning will go. So because after the marine spatial planning, so you can easily do the integrated ecosystem management, which you can sustainably use your resources.
All right, thank you. So I understand that we have mangroves,
Yes.
coral reefs. I think the mangroves are supposed to serve as a protection, right, for underwater, resources, right? Now, and I know we have mangroves in Nigeria. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And we have coral reefs also in Nigeria. But before you answer the question, somebody is wondering outside there. Your viewer is wondering, what is mangrove? What are coral reefs? Can you please just kindly educate the public the essence of these mangroves and the coral reefs to the protection of the underwater resources in Nigeria, and of course, not only Nigeria, of course, the oceans generally.
Yeah. Actually, if you're from the coastline area, that's if you're from the coastline community, you already know what mangrove is, because it's like the lungs of the ocean. So you can imagine if a human being doesn't have a lungs.
Oxygen.
Yes, okay. The lungs. Yes, it's the lungs of the ocean. Whatever thing is coming from the coastline that's onshore is the mangrove that will filter it. Then whatever is coming up from is the mangrove, and most of the mangrove are spawning places for the marine biodiversity.
Okay.
Yes. So in fact, it's not only about Nigeria, but Nigeria is part of the countries that maybe the third in the world that has mangrove.
Oh.
Yes, so most of the fisheries or microorganisms from this, they came from all far from, they come to Nigeria to spawn, then to breed, and they go back. Okay. So you can imagine if the mangroves are destroyed, the number of biodiversity that is lost. So it is necessary to protect those mangroves and for the livelihood of those communities too, because the fisheries grow there, the prawns, the crumbs, they grow there. So those are their main livelihood.
Okay.
And before too, the interlacs, they use the mangrove as a source of guiding, like a transportation. Yes, because it can give you this the position, this where it is. Yes. So and it even for like this food with regional this food. Once you started seeing mangrove ecosystem, you know that that's near a coastline of a country. Okay. So those are part of the things, and it's medicinal too.
Yes.
And some people, like now in Nigeria, people even burn the mangrove, which is not sustainable. They use this as a call for.
So what you are telling the public is that do not burn the mangroves.
Yes, because you are creating greenhouse gases.
Okay.
And you're diminishing the sustainability of the mangrove too. Like
and of
now,
course, which affects, life in the water, the organisms that actually, depends on this mangrove to live and of course to get,
and aside from the mangrove, we are blessed. Nigeria has more than all the major ecosystem services of the ocean. We have it. We have the cold corals, we have the hot corals, the coral reefs. So at least we have all but we are not even utilizing those resources.
So how do we utilize these resources?
It's by educating and training on the technology of how we are going to mine them sustainably.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, talking about these resources in the oceans, we talk about IUU fishing, right? And this is like overfishing, IUU fishing. Yeah. I know the government is doing a whole lot, to mitigate this issue of IUU fishing and all that. What is your advice to the governments on this, on how to, as a professional, what do you think government can do, NIMASA itself can do, to continue to protect our fishes, from depleting in our oceans?
Part of what the government is supposed to do, and which NIMASA is already doing, is monitoring and surveillance using our C4Is.
Okay.
If you see a suspicious activity going around area that we have a marine resources that are tangible to the country, at least you can easily alert.
You can track them.
Yes, and enforcement will go on.
Okay.
So those one of it that NIMASA is going to. Then marine protected areas. After the marine spatial planning, at least we're supposed to have some areas that are not for fishing. That's MPA. Even
yes,
though
I was going to just exactly
the
marine protected
deltas,
areas.
There are some cultures, some communities, they have been protecting some of the mangrove for more than 70 years. So you can imagine, and there are some species of fishes that you can never see them in West Africa unless you come to Nigeria. So those are you can even motivate the coastal communities. The government can motivate them, like maybe, and mangrove, they are carbon fixers, most of the ecosystem. So even to reduce greenhouse emission, you can decide to harvest mangrove, then maybe you sell that carbon, like sequestered, the carbon finance.
Okay.
So government can tap into that too. It's sustainable economic, blue economy, carbon fixing, financing. Once you preserve an ecosystem that sequesters carbon, so you can be able to trade that. For not touching it, then you'll be generating an income. So NIMASA can go into that through the Nigerian government. Then enforcement of the law of the sea. That's that's the IUU fishing. You'll be giving quota on what we are supposed to be doing. That's even after the surveillance of the C4Is, at least we should have an enforcement team that if they see any suspicious fishing going on, then if a fishing that is not supposed to be fished, that quota is brought to the market, then that fisherman or the person selling should be enforced too. So those are some of the things that can reduce IUU fishing. Then encouraging, even like Nigeria, our major marine resources that we use aside from transportation is the oil and gas. So there are some countries that even use the oil rig for aquaculture. So replacement of those biodiversity that is lost using that, but you can harvest fishes, you can harvest other things using those rigs. So it can even serve as a security to those rigs.
Okay, so I will ask you this before I ask you the final question. Life below water.
Exactly.
Somebody out there is asking, what are these things that are below the water? Can you just give us a list of those things that can be found underwater, life below water, that needs to be preserved and conserved for the future generation?
For a layman,
for
a layman is fishes. Yes. For someone that lives in the maritime community, that's someone that is living in the Niger Delta, he was born and bred there. The Lagos community, the Lagos Lago people,
the coastal communities.
Yes, the coastal communities. They know the importance. They know the sea grasses. They know the mangroves. They know even the martinis that we have. There are some biodiversity that is only in Nigeria that we have them.
Interesting.
And they know the whales. If you ask them, they will see sometimes it's time for whales are coming, sharks are coming. Those are carbon fixers too. So those are, it's not life below water, that's SDG 14. It's not only about life below water, but it's linked to the faculty of human culture, because that's where the generation of economy is. Energy, food, livelihood, whatever it is. And the ocean is 70% of the world. So you can imagine if something happened to the ocean.
Thank you very much, Hajia. I'll just ask you this final question. Just in 30 seconds, tell us, after 2030, what next?
You said sustainability.
Yes.
You are just saying SDG means Sustainable Development Goals. So as you're developing this goal for sustainability, but you need sustainability after these goals too.
Okay.
So what research is bringing out, what are you sustaining after the sustainable goals? That's our take.
Food for thought. Thank you, Hajia Inuwa. She has said it all. The world is covered up by 70% of the world is all about water. And like our guest said, if the water or the oceans are destroyed, what happens to humankind? You and I have the responsibility to continue to protect our oceans, both from the land and of course to the sea, so that you and I can leave something for the future generation. This is a food for thought for you. And it's a wrap on this segment. My name is Femi Kumuyi. I remain your host. Thank you and see you next time.